Andy, what's the do you have like a memory of like the worst service you've ever gotten at a restaurant or anything?
I don't know if I do. I don't know if I have a worst experience ever story. I've had some bad ones, but not a worst.
Like, okay, so you've had some bad ones, but like, so where do you stand on tipping then? Like, do you still tip or do you like give
Yeah.
nothing?
Unless it's like genuinely horrible service, which I don't think I've ever had. I think you like yeah, you always tip. You always leave a tip. I mean, I've been a food service worker. I've been a waiter. Like you're not making any other money. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
and half the time you're not responsible for whatever pissed somebody off anyway. You know what I mean? It's almost always a series of things that occur in the background and you're just the face of it. So you always leave a tip.
Do you like leave a remark to you sucked or go back to your home country or whatever, anything like
Now I
that?
see where we're going with this. No, I've never suggested I want somebody to be sent to jail or rounded up and extradited from this country or other threats based on the quality of my service at a restaurant, nor
You
lied about it.
I took a long way to get there, but you sent me a story, Andy, about a individual, a real estate agent from Ohio,
Yes.
who apparently was so upset with her service that she not only left zero tip, but she said, "You suck."
Yeah.
And then in the below that, she said, "I hope Trump deports you back to your country."
Yeah.
So that might be taken a little too far. Now, the weird thing about that kind of stuff is we're in the social media age, Andy, and when these things happen, people post that stuff.
Yep.
And then your signature is there, your name is on the card. And so this person was found and and is no longer a real estate agent anymore. Now, the person claims that her card was stolen and somebody else did this, but this is a weird thing about CCTV, right? You have video evidence of it, and it's not so much. But like, hey, people, don't be assholes, right? Like, when we were in Gettysburg, my brothers and I went out to dinner one night, and the service was not good. The guy was slow. We were really the only ones there for a while, and it took him a long time, but he still got a tip. And I didn't sit there and say, "You suck." Go back to the hole you came out of. I don't know. It's just a little
Yeah,
weird.
and Dave, I love it. Her name is Lovins. Her last name is Lovins, which
Yeah.
is so appropriate for this. So, look, she went to the restaurant. Whatever happened, they said like the service wasn't great. It was busy,
Yeah.
right? I mean, like that happens not infrequently, right? Restaurants get very hectic. They get very busy. It's sometimes it's part of the fun is like the chaos that's going around. And I can tell you, man, as a waiter, like running between tables and like dealing with various customer issues, it is stressful. And then like I remember as a new waiter, like I remember having I had a party I had to take care of, and I was helping their other wait staff. And I brought out a tray of drinks. I remember like trying to lean over to pour drinks, like going around people, trying to navigate them because they don't get out of your way. They just want their drink. And like drinks like sliding and the spilling a little. And like they were great. They were like, hey, like we're being crazy. This is crazy. Thanks for putting up with us. And like they just rolled along with everything. But I was stressed out. Like it can be a very stressful
Mhm.
job. And unless you're working at a high-end restaurant, like you're not making much money, right? You're making money. You're making a pay, but it's based on that tip. You just tip your server because they're probably doing their best. And the fact that somebody in the kitchen didn't put your black beans on the way you asked for them, like don't punish the server. They're just doing their job. I mean, everybody's just trying to help out. That's why the manager's floating around asking you if you enjoyed your meal. Let them know that something was wrong, but don't be an asshole. And Ms. Lovins, you're an asshole. And then to go and lie about it, like it's so funny. The fact she lied about somebody stole my card, even and then they then used my bubbly handwriting. And then they for them to identify her on the CCTV. Like there is not a rock big enough for her to hide underneath right now because everybody hates her. And hey, you brought it on yourself.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, don't be an asshole, right? I mean,
All right,
just
don't be an asshole. That
don't be
applies to
an
so
asshole.
much, Dave.
Like, okay. So, all right, Andy, a bunch of things to get into. We partially covered the State of the Union address, or whatever the address to the nation
Yeah.
that Trump did. It was the longest one ever any president has ever given, and so on. And there's a lot of just crazy rambling
Yeah,
and so on. Well, there's a couple things I'm going to call out. One, the Greenland issue still hasn't like subsided, Andy. And we still are having the president in front of the nation talk about Greenland
yeah.
when nobody else gives a flying fuck about this. And yet he's still in there going, "Hey, Greenland, come with us, vote, like he's openly like telling that
Greenland is
Greenland
ours, he said.
sovereign what?
Greenland is ours, is what he
Yeah,
said.
well, he was like, "Hey, you should be able to choose for yourself. Come to the United States, but we're gonna have you at the end of the day." It
Yeah,
was like the Daily Show did a great bit on this, and using Trump's own words, like, "Hey, we'll let you decide, but we're gonna take you, and you belong to us." Like, what the fuck are we doing here, Andy? We have so many other problems going on here. This issue still comes up. I don't know, Andy.
yeah. I mean, and the way he talks, it's like a psychopath talking to a woman. You know, what I mean, it's like, hey, I know you've got a husband, but you're gonna be mine one day. You know, it's like no, like even if she wants to leave her husband, doesn't mean she's coming to you. You know what I mean? Like that's not how these things work. You can't force somebody to be your bride, and you can't force another nation to become part of your country. It's so insane. Like the fact that he's staying with us and Panama and Gaza, like it's lunacy, Dave. But he keeps, I mean, like he doesn't stop saying things. Like he doesn't have an off button. When he says something, he sticks with it, except of course for tariffs, which are on again, off again every other
Uh,
fucking day. But I don't want to get ahead of wherever you might go. So please.
well, I did. We ultimately did want to get into tariffs, Andy. This is again another one of these things. And I again the on again off again tariffs. We're gonna do this, but we're gonna hold off on auto parts, and we're gonna do this, but we're gonna sign some historic trade agreement, and everyone's gonna kowtow to our things. The reality is that this type of instability is just maddening for economic stability, and it really hurts small companies and those companies who are mostly affected by this because you know they were getting ready to have tariffs enacted yesterday
Yeah,
earlier, and then they were planning and preparing and how do they compensate for that, and now it gets pushed back a month. Now they have a month more to stress and anxiety over it.
yeah.
These companies can't continue to fluctuate like this. And then Andy, you start getting like this is where conspiracies come into play. And this is where, when you're not transparent and when you're not being forthright on things, and when you're just operating off of social media, you get conspiracies that come in and go, well, Trump announced those so he could lower the stock prices of the companies that he wanted to buy. He could buy them at a lower price, then announce that the tariffs are going back. Those stocks go back up, and now he's made billions of dollars over things that he's rigged.
Yeah.
Again, this is when you operate in lunacy and you operate in crazy on a day-to-day basis. This is what you get, and it's exhausting, Andy.
It is exhausting, and it's frustrating to all of us because like we're trying to figure out like what's going on, you know, and the conspiracy theories like they're going to be there because it looks like a mess.
It
It looks
does.
like what are you doing? And the fact that this administration that campaigned on the idea of being for the working man, right? They're going to come and lower prices and help everyday Americans get their lives back under control from the crazy illegal immigrants who are killing us by the hundreds of thousands to the out of control economy. He's going to fix it. Instead, we've got millionaires and billionaires in the cabinet running things and saying things in such callous and disrespectful manners. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, right, yesterday was commenting on the tariffs and the price fluctuations. And he said, access to cheap goods is not the essence of the American dream. And you know what, Dave? Like, he's right. But for those of us that aren't millionaires and billionaires, access to cheap goods makes our lives more enjoyable. We can have more stuff that we want at reasonable prices, and tariffs frustrate that. And you know what? For raising the average cost on Americans by two, three, $4,000 a year, with tariffs, might not be a big deal if you're a billionaire. But for us common people, us poor lowly commoners, like that's a lot of money. You know what I mean when people are trying to pay bills to pay the household bills, pay for their kids in college, put food on the table. That's a lot of money, two, three, $4,000. And the callous, flippant attitude of these dickhead millionaires and billionaires is why people hate them now more than ever, right? Don't be a dick, not at the restaurant, and not in Congress, and not as an executive working for the president, right? But there's so many assholes, and the tariffs are constantly frustrating people, painful for businesses, just like cutting off federal funding or not paying contractors for work already completed. It's just irresponsible asshole management, and it's disgusting. And people are going to get fed up with it, Dave.
Yeah, and really this is we've talked about this before. This is a type of economic warfare. You're bullying this other places for this. Now people will say, "No, no, we're trying to protect the American worker and stuff." You're not. But let's just dispel that and dispense that up front, because if you're trying to protect the American worker, you're trying to help the American worker survive and afford the things that they want to afford, move up in the world, and not negatively punish him for a lot of things. And again, it's that tired party line about I'm protecting America and America first and America first. It's not America first, because who's getting punished by this? We are. I mean, and I think that's where the biggest concern is. But again, there's nothing that Trump says, and I think you mentioned it. There were 26 outright lies that he said during his address to Congress that at least were documented. 26, I mean, outright lies. But again, he's not going to change. I mean, it's just completely maddening and frustrating to watch this go along.
Yeah.
So,
It's like the asshole dad that's yelling at all the neighborhood kids,
yeah,
and yelling at all the neighborhood kids for just because, right? They're playing kickball, they're playing soccer, they're too loud, they're riding bikes in the lawn. Like he's just yelling at them for fucking everything, right? And his kids aren't allowed to play with anybody else, and nobody else wants to play with his kids because the dad's an asshole, right? And so, like, that's Trump. Like, he's being an asshole to the rest of the world. The rest of the world's like, hey, fuck you, America. Like, we're gonna boo your national anthem. We're gonna boo your hockey team. We're gonna boo your WWE. We don't want you in our country. Like they're sick of Americans because asshole dad's being a dick to everybody, and there's no need for it. Like we were all playing in the playground together in last year in 2024, and we were getting along pretty well. There's some things we had to work out, some things we could have done better. But now new asshole dad's moved in and it's just berating everybody. Everybody's like fuck you, neighbor. Nobody wants to play with you anymore. That's just like the world is celebrating America's like stupidity right now because we look like idiots and we're pissing everybody off, and it's completely like self-owned. Like we were doing it to ourselves for no reason. Nobody was having a trade war with America till this started, right? I mean, there's some terrorists and you could argue them, push them, debate them, whatever, but the way we're doing things right now is just the asshole dad being an asshole dad for asshole dad's sake, and it's infuriating.
asshole's the word of the day today. Just don't be an asshole. Like, speaking of assholes, Andy, Elon Musk. So
Perfect.
there's been a lot of things. One, we're starting to see more cracks here in some of these things, as Trump's numbers have actually, I think his negativity rating is higher now than it has been.
Yeah,
This is the first part of it. Again, we're only less than 2 months into this presidency. But that's one part of it. But now you're starting to see with the Doge piece, like the president's now coming out and saying, "Well, we want to actually keep good workers,
yeah,
but yet we're just gonna no more hatchet jobs. We're gonna let the cabinet secretaries decide where they're gonna make cuts." That's a novel fucking idea than allowing the Doge 6 to start making random cuts to whoever. And then you have to issue mea culpas like the
yeah,
CDC had to do, Andy,
yeah,
or some of these other essential services and critical infrastructures had to do is say, hey, workers, we need you to actually come back because you're protecting something really important, and we can't just replace you right away. So while you may be fired down the line, we need you to come back to work right now. So that's one part of it. But I think, Andy, you're starting to see with the negativity, and look, Musk was having a declining negativity rating for the last couple years, ever with his purchase of Twitter, which has then become some sort of like cesspool now, to Doge,
yeah,
and you're starting to see it play out on the his vehicles now, Andy. There's been a lot of things out there. Cybertrucks continually getting vandalized. And we saw some of this in the campaign where people were writing fuck Musk and all this other stuff. We see videos posted on Instagram or TikTok where people are projecting like videos of derogatory stuff on Teslas that are driving. And then Andy, most recently in New Orleans during the Mardi Gras parade, people were throwing stuff at Tesla Cybertrucks. Look, we hate those trucks anyways, but I don't know. Do you or where are you standing on the vandalization of we don't vandalize Andy,
Yeah.
but
Yes. So
it's
yeah.
driven
So
by.
should you actually damage and harm somebody else's property? Like, no.
No.
Like, of course you shouldn't. That's not right to do. Even though it takes me a lot of effort to resist shitting on the hood of a Cybertruck when I see it, as I unfortunately texted your wife one day. But that's besides the point, Dave. Right? The reality is people loathe these things. It's so triggering for people. So like seeing the Mardi Gras parade where these guys have been like they're volunteering, right? They don't own the trucks this year. The parade coordinated to have Cybertrucks drive through as part of their vehicle, portion, and so these poor guys are coming through, and the crowd was not having it. I mean, they went off. There's videos you can see online now on social media and elsewhere. The crowd was not having it and just like attacked the vehicles. And there's a I think it's a Facebook group for like frustrated Cybertruck owners who are just sort of whining to each other about the abuse they're getting on the road from people who are just driving by and flicking them off or driving by and throwing shit at them because people see the Cybertruck and they think this is a stupid looking vehicle. There's no reason for anybody to own this stupid vehicle. It's expensive, and the only reason you have it is to flex on people that you've got this stupid, ugly monstrosity, and you're probably an Elon stan. You probably love this guy, and most of America has no tolerance for him right now. So people are frustrated. They're taking out their frustration. Look, can you vandalize property? No. But can you be an ass to a Cybertruck driver? Yes, you can. Like, yes, you can. Like, that's fine. If you drive around in a Cybertruck, be prepared for people to look at you like you're a piece of shit. And maybe you're not a piece of shit, but you're wrapping yourself up in a piece of shit. And you're saying, hey, look at me. I'm a douchebag. I'm proud of it. I want you to come and tell me I'm a piece of shit. And people are going to do it. People are going to, you're inviting it on yourself. Not violence, not condoning violence, not condoning vandalism, destruction of property. But if somebody drive by and give you the finger, I mean, you're kind of begging for it.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for the first video I see of like a Cybertruck actually doing Cybertruck related stuff, like at a construction site, off-roading somewhere in the mountains.
Yeah.
I want to see that Cybertruck instead of like the I'm a douchebag because I can afford 100,000 or $150,000 piece of fucking shit.
Yeah.
And it's even funnier when I see the people who are like no longer it's no longer just the gray ones. It's like now they've put they go the extra put they go the extra way and make it even like louder with the, like the
Yeah.
neon yellow or something. I think I shared with you whenever I see them in the wild, Andy,
Love it.
I try to send you a picture, and I saw one in Seattle at a ski resort. Again, not actually on snow or anything, just in there, and it was like bright yellow. I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
what a fucking like
Yeah. And mint
disgusting.
green. I mean, they come in a host of disgusting looking colors. So, yeah, good job. I don't often, celebrate New Orleans, but good job with your parade and rejecting the vehicle, guys. Good job.
Well, and I think ultimately, and again, Andy, we don't advocate vandalism or destruction of property. But look, Americans, you need to let your voices be heard on all of these issues, right? I think this is where, and look, we're seeing the, oh, I regret my vote and stuff. Well, tough shit. Like you voted for this, and this is what we have to deal with. But that doesn't mean your voice should remain silent. Like if you're concerned, you should protest, you should demonstrate, and you should do that. Now, I've seen some interesting things about federal funding to universities and colleges about individuals who protest on college campuses.
Yeah.
Like if you're a, you know, international student, you'll be deported if you protest. And if you're a local student, you'll be expelled. Or if you're a US citizen, you'll be expelled if you protest on college campuses, or the government's just not going to give you federal funding. So that again, you're bullying these universities, a First Amendment right that people have. But this is where we're at. So I don't know, Andy.
Dave, this is a much bigger issue and much bigger than we're going to be able to get into today on the protest front because it's part of a broader chilling of activity. And you're seeing this come out of corporate America. You're seeing guidance to not ruffle the Trump administration's feathers. You're seeing a lot of concerning behavior and and pressure to not like frustrate the regime. That's a much bigger issue. I might come back to that next week to talk about it because it is very un-American and it is the exact opposite of what the Republican Party has been talking about the last 4 years in as regards of weaponization of government. And it's really scary for America, and it's a dangerous time for. And this is a much bigger issue. So maybe we'll have to put a pin on that one and come back to it because this sort of like threats to protesters is wholly un-American, and so we've got to come back to that one, Dave.
Yeah, let's do that. That's a good idea because I did kind of cram it in at the last minute there. So let's throw that in for next week, Andy. We can do that. Okay, Andy, last segment for today. It's been a big NFL week,
I
Andy.
know. Yeah.
It's been super exciting. So many great things are occurring as free agency is kicking off and as we get ready to go into the draft, Andy. A lot of great things happening. A couple notable things that we talked about with defensive players. Max Crosby, for the Raiders, Las Vegas Raiders, just signed a contract extension. So the Raiders are saying, "Hey, we're not going to overhaul. We're not going to, even though we don't have a quarterback. I think it looks like they're going to release Minshew as their quarterback. Even though we don't necessarily have a quarterback, we're still going to stick with the great players that we have." And we want to be able to sign those players. So Max Crosby, kudos to him, gets a big one.
Yeah.
Another key defensive player, one of the Bosa clan, a veteran with the Los Angeles Chargers. I think he's at 7 years, or he's been there for a while. He was given his release, or he was
Yeah.
cut from them, putting him on the market now. So a lot of movement going on, a couple other moves here and there, but it's an exciting time for the NFL, Andy.
It is. I mean, the Crosby signing, not a shocker that he's
Yeah.
staying in Vegas. I mean, he was talking about wanting to go, but he also, I mean, he was fighting hard for that team a year ago and trying to stay there. So, not shocking. He's getting a huge payday. I mean, the most expensive contract for a non-quarterback in the NFL, which is, hey, look, he's tremendous. I mean, it's he earned that money. Good for him. Good for him, and good for the Raiders to say, hey, look, we want to build something. And we're going to start with some key players. There's talk now if they could be in the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes. Not sure what I think about that, but they're trying to figure something out there in Vegas, and they need to because they've sucked for a long time. So awesome for Max Crosby. He's a guy who's shown that he can perform consistently, right? The never-ending motor. Like he's earned that payday. Bosa's a good player. I mean, he's a dangerous athlete, but the injuries have just killed his career, right? And I saw a stat. Don't know if it was 100% legit or not, but showing basically when he's on the field for more than half the snaps, they actually allowed more points per game than when he wasn't on the field. Yeah, I don't. There's probably a lot of things that go into that fact, but the reality for him is like he's super dangerous when he plays, but he doesn't play a lot. And so for a team to invest big time money in a guy that you're going to get for maybe 40%, 50% of the snaps, like that's a tough one. So I don't know where Bosa ends up in this. We've got guys like Miles Garrett still trying to get out there and be available. I don't know where Bosa fits in, but somebody's going to pick him up. Somebody's going to sign him, whether
Yeah.
he's an all-the-time player or a part-time player. But I mean, can be very destructive when he's out on the field.
Yeah, another defensive player that was just given the okay to seek a trade, Trey Hendrickson for the Cincinnati Bengals. So a lot of defensive players on the market,
Yeah,
and this is just prime for Jerry Jones to step in. Even though he's got to pay Micah Parsons, he's going to find a way to go in and pay Bosa right now, Andy. I can just see it, like bring in Bosa and then not have any money to pay Parsons. That'd be a classic Jerry Jones move.
yeah.
But you got a lot of good defensive players out there on the market. There's some offensive movements going on. DK Metcalf with the Seattle
Big
Seahawks,
time.
also looking for potential new home. So man, this is just I just love how the NFL dominates this offseason. They continue to look at different places or different ways to keep the energy behind this. Oh, it just football never departs, Andy. I was wrong for thinking it would. So
It never does, and thank goodness it doesn't. And Dave DK, I mean, like I don't know what they're doing in Seattle, to be honest. Like I'm not sure what the thought process is. Like they're losing Tyler Lockett and they're losing DK. Like that's been the team for these last many years, and amid inconsistency with the quarterbacks until Gina sort of settled in. DK is phenomenal. I mean, like AJ Brown, he's big, strong, fast, catches the ball, hard to stop one on one. He's a game changer, and so like I don't know who's going to end up signing him, but he can be a really big difference for a football team out there, especially if you're like teetering. Like the Chargers are a good example. You know, you give Justin Herbert, DK Metcalf to throw to, those guys can connect for 60, 65-yard plays like on a not infrequent basis. That's tremendous potential right there. So DK is, I think, one of the biggest ones out there. Somebody's going to sign him, and like he is worth it. Like whatever you're going to pay him, he's worth paying for. Like he's a game changer.
Jerry Jones, plug your ears, please. Like I mean, can't you just see it? Like I can see all of these things. Jerry Jones is lighting up, even though he went on the radio and said, "I don't fill my holes with free agency." And like, well, how else are you gonna fill them, Jerry? Because you're not drafting for shit lately. And yeah, I mean, God
He
bless.
doesn't fill his holes. Period.
These
End of sentence.
80-year-old people like holding on to these. Just get the fuck out of the way. I mean, like Biden did it. He went away. Speaking of which, Andy, did you see like there's a new book about Biden and like basically like all the shit that went behind the scenes of his deciding to run again. It's gonna like all now they tell us it's those now they tell us books is like
Yeah,
what we knew at the time,
yeah,
but nobody wanted to say, and now they come out and tell us. It's like when you have a great athlete and you know he finally gets traded away or something, then all the rumors come out about actually he was a really bad person, he was caustic. Like think
yeah.
about all the Russell Wilson stories that came out after he left Seattle. Oh yeah, he had his own parking spot and he had his own locker room and own quarterback coach. None of that stuff came out while he was there,
Right.
but you know it's just funny to see how this stuff plays out. But
Yeah, yeah. Everybody likes to talk on the other side of things, and the truth does eventually come out. You know, I mean, look, politicians are assholes. Like we know this, regardless of, I mean, we know that. So there's a theme today, Dave. There's a theme.
there's definitely out there. So, all right, Andy, we'll wrap up for this week. I think a good array of topics, Andy. It's
Yeah.
good discussion points. A lot of NFL activity. We'll see some more coming up here. Anything exciting for the weekend, Andy?
No, Dave, you know, I'm still coping with the reality that my eldest son is off at basic training right now. So we're just sort of we're in standby mode for the call. They're given a one-time like 10-second scripted call to call home and give you their mailing address. And so my wife and I are on pins and needles, like waiting to not miss our 10-second phone call. So I think this weekend we'll be staring at the phone, waiting, waiting for the call.
No, it's super exciting for young Jabor. It's a great time. So hopefully you won't miss that call. I'm off to another part of North Carolina this weekend to see my daughter's team play one of the top teams in the state this week. They're going to lose because this team is really, I mean, they're really strong. It's a team they played in the state championship the
Oh yeah,
last two
I remember this.
years,
Yeah,
and I mean, I think their team is good. It's still early in the season. They've got a lot of work through for that. So, but it'll be a fun part of the season for the Charlotte Catholic Cougars.
yeah,
And
yeah. I was just thinking yesterday. I was lamenting my son and I would be waking up this time of the year and like working out before spring sports, and I kind of miss that routine. So I'm glad you still get a chance to
yeah,
go out there and enjoy your children and high school sports and all the fun that goes along with it.
yeah. As I hold on to all of these kids for just a little bit longer.
Yeah,
So,
that's right. That's right.
all right, Andy. With that, I will catch up with you next time.